Welcome to Benchmark Studios. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We've got a really special guest, a friend of mine and a friend of Benchmark, Mr. Ryan Whittle. He's interacted with Benchmark in a couple different ways, most recently through his faith community and some of the service work that they're doing here. But the truth is that Ryan has a background working with students that we serve here at Benchmark. He's worked in a school setting. He's a PE teacher. He understands a lot of what our students need, the dynamics that affect their lives, and he's going to share with us today through our conversation some suggestions that he might have for the way that we do our work and how we might be able to do it better. This will be the first conversation of multiple with Ryan. And Ryan, I'm grateful to you for being here today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
So, all right, well, let's start with the basics. I just want you to tell the audience a little bit about who you are, and you can decide how you want to intro yourself, but just who's Ryan Whittle and what brought you to this conversation today?
Name's Ryan. Not a lot of people actually call me Ryan. Actually, most of my friends call me Whittle or Whit. So
Cool.
Feel free to jump in there.
Okay.
You're
Maybe I'll
my
just
guy.
switch up to being Whit the rest of the call.
So my name's Ryan, and I'm a teacher. I'm an educator, health and PE. I also teach a class called Safety Ed. We were talking briefly about that. It's mistakenly called driver's ed, but it's basically everything someone should know before going for their permit test. So I teach primarily sophomores, so 15, about to turn 16 years old. I used to be in the elementary school setting as well, so very familiar with that. But I'm also a wrestling coach at Millersville University, Division II program. I actually just celebrated 6 years, right at the start of June or middle of June. Love wrestling. Yeah, that's very much a part of my life. I'm a father. My wife is home right now, super pregnant. If we
need to cut.
Yeah, if we cut,
we will cut.
It's because my wife it's go time.
Yep. Very exciting.
So yeah, she's pregnant with our second son. So life is exciting right now. Yeah.
I want to ask a little bit about wrestling. I mean, it's no surprise to people. We value fitness here at Benchmark, but what's wrestling mean to you? You're a coach now, really a collegiate level, high level D2 coach. That's a big deal. So what's so meaningful about the sport to you?
Yeah, I can literally talk about wrestling for days. So I'm from New York originally, and my parents split right before middle school. So my mom was a teacher in Connecticut, and where we lived in New York, it was right on the state line. At the time we lived in a place called Portchester, which borders Connecticut, a town called Greenwich. So when my parents split, my dad stayed in New York, and since my mom already worked in Connecticut, we ended up moving into Connecticut. So it wasn't until I was in Connecticut that I started wrestling, right there at 7th grade.
Wow.
So 12 years old, which is considered very late to the PA standard, where you get kids starting 3-4. So
what's tough about starting later then?
it's just that
The movement, flexibility stuff, or?
I think it's more so just you get better with time on the mat. That's very much a part of it. Just like a lot of sports, like swimming or gymnastics, you just get an edge for joining the younger. But there's also burnout and things like that. So you see that a lot here in PA because wrestling here is so high level. If kids are high level young, then you're more likely to be 18 years old, fresh out of high school, and be like, actually, I don't want to continue to pursue this. So I'm very happy with my experience. I started when I was 12, still wrestling now. It's great. It's wrestling is so much more than actual wrestling. I've learned so much about myself, what I'm capable of, leadership. There is a team aspect of wrestling that doesn't get the limelight that you would see in other sports, but there is very much a team aspect of wrestling as much as there is an individual aspect. So, I mean, I don't know. If you ask me a more specific question about wrestling, I'll rattle off.
Yeah.
But when you give me something broad like that, I can talk forever.
Well, we'll get there. I want to touch back on one thing that you mentioned. I would imagine a pretty critical part of your life, that growing up with parents who have separated, and that's something that happens a lot of our Benchmark students. and it affects everyone differently. So was that a challenge for you? Was it something that you just took as this is the way things are going to be, I'm going to work forward? Or how did that affect you, and how have you grown through that?
I am one of three brothers. So we're all 2 years apart. My older brother at the time was 12. I was 10. My younger brother was 8. My parents are split. Both of them remarried. My dad and stepmother have another daughter. She just turned 16.
Wow.
So like our age gap is wild.
Substantial.
Yeah. But when it was happening, one of the things that both of my parents really emphasized, like their divorce, in short, for lack of better words, it sucked. Like it wasn't great. Now they're cordial with each other, and like you don't expect them to be more than that. But at the time, it wasn't great. So as a kid, it's kind of confusing because this nuclear family, and you're like, oh, this is what a family's supposed to be like, and then like, all right, well, I guess my parents don't love each other anymore. How's that? So, but one thing that both of my parents did that was great was just remind us that my brothers and I always have each other, and regardless of whether or not my parents were together or not together, that one day they will be gone, and it will just be my brothers and I, and that we always have to be there for each other. And then eventually, my sister came along and was like, "All right, you're in the club." Yeah. So, it just. I think my brothers and I got a lot closer actually, with the marriage, falling apart.
You still are today.
Yeah, very close, very close. We're spread out, but we're close. I feel like we're closer now in our adulthood than we were when we were kids, and it's harder because we're farther away. My older brother lives in Cali, and my younger brother lives in Texas, and my sister is still in New York with my dad.
Wow, you guys are spread out.
Yeah.
So when in the work that you do and you're talking to students, if you meet a young person who's going through their parents divorcing, splitting up for whatever reason, how do you talk to them about it?
One of the things that was said to my brothers and I when we were kids, which feels like one of the worst things another adult can say to you in the time, but it makes sense, is that you're not the first person to have their parents get divorced, and you're not going to be the last. That was like, I remember that being said to me as a kid. I'm like, that's not helpful.
Yeah. What is registered is pretty harsh.
Yeah, it's not helpful at all. Like, This is my situation and it sucks. But the reality is it's true. I would say something about me personally. I'm very black and white, which is sometimes to a fault. So maybe in my childhood I heard that and thought that advice sucks. But now in my adulthood, with like the kind of person I am, being as black and white as I am, it registers. So I would try to say something similar to that and just be like, there's a lot of people in the same shoes as you. You're not the last person to, you're not the first or last person to have their parents split. However, with those experiences that people have had before you, there's a lot more resources for you to, navigate your feelings and that kind of thing throughout this. Because it does suck, especially when you're 10, because you have an understanding of what a divorce is. And it's a little different when you're older. If I was an adult living out of the house, seeing my parents divorce would not be cool, but it would be different because I'm not under that roof. I'm not, going to one parent every other weekend and having 2 Christmases and that. Right. This is why. It's difficult.
It's tough for a young person when they see the mold and that's what they think is the right thing, and then the mold for their personal life changes.
Yeah.
I got to ask you about this black and white thinking. I do a lot of black and white thinking too, and sometimes that serves me and sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. And I'm still trying to figure out where I got that thinking. It makes the world a little simpler, but for you and some of this black and white thinking, where does it serve you in life and where doesn't it?
I think it falls back on my athletic background. Mm-hmm. Like, being an athlete is so much a part of who I am, especially from a wrestling standpoint. With wrestling, if you go out and you win because you won. Yep. You're the only person out there. You go out there and you lose, it's also your fault. So I find a lot of parallels between wrestling specifically, and like actual life. Like if I go out and I can't make rent or something like that, like whose fault is that? It's not my job's fault. It's like I poorly managed my money or somewhere along the line. Like you can always like narrow things back to a point. I think that's, to answer your question, I think that's what it is. I think that I see whatever the situation is in front of me and I just go, okay, let me not put feelings into this and just backtrack as to what brought me here and be like, okay, that's the thing. So like, there's my black and white answer. This happened because of this. Yep. And I think for me, at least, that's easy. That's makes looking at things easier.
It seems to me like what you're saying there is that some of this black and white thinking leads you to take ownership of situations quickly.
Yeah.
When you take ownership of situations quickly, you start to work towards some kind of solution.
Yes.
You're not hanging in that gray area. You're taking ownership early.
Like I'm very much, there's no point in like wallowing in something. How do we fix it? If it needs fixing, like let's do that. I messed this up. What do I need to do to fix it? That kind of thing. And sometimes it's to a fault. Like sometimes you do need to just sit and wait in whatever it is the scenario is and then move on. It just all depends. And I think I need to do some work at figuring out when that's most appropriate.
Yeah, I think we all do. But I'm curious about your coaching. So this has been an important skill for you to learn. You do it well. You're implementing in your life. But how do you coach your students and your athletes through that? They come off the mat, it's a loss, or there's a loss in the classroom. Something doesn't go well. You want them to develop a little bit of what you've developed, but how do you do it? How do you have a conversation with someone to get them where you're at right now in your head?
Yeah, that's tough because I work with very different age demographics also. So on the collegiate level, I can talk to the kids a little differently than I would in the high school level. Like I feel with my athletes, they're older and they're college age. I feel like I can be more, for lack of better words, friendly with them. And with my high school students, I need to make sure that I'm also I want to do that, but I also want to maintain a position of authority without blurring the lines. Like I'm very big on relationships. So to get back to answering your question, no one wants to hear what you have to say unless you have a relationship with them. I think that's what I believe. Just because you have the title doesn't translate into I'm gonna take what this person's saying and put it toward whatever it is I'm doing. Yep. So like if I have but if I have a wrestler who comes off a loss, all right, and I saw exactly why they lost, and they come off the mat, and I go, hey, I'll talk to you in a minute about, get your mind right, and I'll talk to you about your match. And I go and talk to them about whatever it was that went wrong, but I never work out with them in the room. What does that matter? It's just going to be like, all right, thanks. Appreciate you stepping in on this loss. But you don't really actually know my style and so on. Same thing with the classroom. Like if all I have for a kid is a thumbs up, thumbs down, whether or not they do something great or bad, it's like, who cares? You don't really know who I am beyond the work that I'm handing into you or performing in your class. Yep. So I think it all boils down to a relationship before you're able to step in and offer anything to a student.
Well, that's certainly, that ties into what we do here. We can give kids advice about their life without knowing them and knowing them well. In your role as a teacher, though, and I'm thinking there are maybe there are young teachers listening to this now. You got a classroom full of a lot of kids. You can't build a relationship with everyone, or maybe you can. You can tell me wrong. But when I look out at my classroom, who do I need to work hardest to build relationships with? Thinking about your experience in classrooms as a whole. Like, should I go after the kids who are struggling the most? I provide the highest quality relationship building with them, or should I focus my relationship building expertise or energy somewhere else?
That is tough because, especially now, because students who have some type of special need, whether it's behavioral or physical or mental or something like that, They're all integrated into the classrooms as much as possible. It's called like least restrictive environment. So you used to have, X amount of years ago, separate classrooms, and those separate classrooms still exist for like occasion. So let's say you have an ES student, emotional support students. Typically, I'm gonna make a generalization here. It's typically students who can't emotionally regulate themselves. Well, that is the case, but they tend to lash out at something that someone else would deem small.
They've got triggers.
Yes,
that go off.
So that student can fall into what's called an ES classroom, an emotional support classroom, which is a form of special education. So there is a separate ES classroom with a ES teacher who, it's smaller ratios so that teacher can work with that student. But in a least restrictive environment, you can't keep that kid there all day long. Now we're bringing them into a quote unquote normal classroom. Mm-hmm. So you have a student that because you've seen on paper, all right, that student in this seat is more likely to lash out at something, or have a problem with another student or something like that. And then you have a class of quote unquote, lack of better words, typical students. Do I focus my attention to that student, or do I continue to make blanket remarks? Mm-hmm. Or it's tough. I think everything is situational, and I think that falls back to what I was saying before about knowing your kids and just building those relationships. I think that you should be doing your best to reach out to every kid. Like, talk to the quiet kid, talk to the loud kid, get to know their first and last name, figure out what they like to do in and out of class, and then those kids will either gravitate toward you or not. And then, if one kid starts to float your way, then another kid will, and then another kid will. And then you can, that quiet kid is also talking to you the same time as another kid who is, in a different friend group. And then you can be like, hey, actually, you two have this connection here. And then you can, just navigate relationships from a elevated point of view, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Percentage breakdown wise, I'm a new teacher, trying to figure this stuff out. How much of my time is spent on that relationship building piece versus what I'm worried about, which is I need to get this curriculum done on this timeline because I have these standardized tests I need to teach to. So just give me an idea. Relationship building versus doing all my, I's dotted, T's crossed, get this stuff done.
I think that also depends on probably what subject you teach, and how long you've been teaching. So in your first, I think regardless of what subject it is you teach, your first 2 years are pretty tough, because you're creating your lesson plans and things like that, and that'll dictate a lot of your time, no matter what subject it is you're teaching, because you have to create your lesson plans, you have to make sure you check all the boxes that they want your lesson plans to look like, and then you submit them, and so on and so on and so on. But once you have that framework, you can use that for years to come. And then like in your future years teaching, you already have this library of lessons and things like that. So all your boxes are checked because you worked hard your first year. Yep. And then now it's just tweaking or coming up with a new idea where I'm creating this one new lesson plan as opposed to a brand new one every single day. So your first year, it's going to be hard. But moving forward, I think once you have that framework, relationships should be everything. I think that should be top priority. You are in the business of education because you like working with kids. That's what you hope. Yep. You definitely come across teachers who it's like, what are you doing here, dude? Mm-hmm. You don't sound like someone who likes to work with kids. So you definitely see that.
That's a small percentage.
A small percentage,
okay.
But a percentage nonetheless. Where it's like, what are you doing? Go. There's a million other jobs. Go do something else. Like, this is important work that we're doing. No matter what subject it is you teach, these are the people that we're going to send out into the world one day. Mm-hmm. So the relationship you have with these kids should matter way more than them handing you an A on an assignment that they'll forget in a week. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we breezed over a big gap between growing up, having these challenges with family, finding sport, loving wrestling, and now all of a sudden you're a teacher.
Yeah.
Fill that just for audience context. Fill that gap in
Yeah.
for us.
So just like say my little story, I guess.
Yeah, I'll ask questions about it, but
Okay.
I want everyone else to know the middle part because it's important to who you are today.
Okay. So I guess this really factors into relationships too, because I met a lot of great people along the way. I grew up going to the Boys and Girls Club in Connecticut, and I met some awesome people there.
How'd you find Boys and Girls Club?
My mom, I think when my parents split and we were making the move into Connecticut, it was the summertime. So I think my mom being able to find a summer camp for us while we were navigating this new stage was really important.
Yep.
And thankfully the Boys and Girls Club was close by and readily accessible. And so my mom was probably just like, oh, my boys can go here for the summer and we can figure out all these new things.
Yeah.
So that's how. And we lived at the club.
You loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great.
Show up there when the doors open.
Yes. We showed up when the doors were open. We were one of the last kids to leave, but it was great. We loved the club.
You had good people there?
Great people. I'm a big fan of the Boys and Girls Club and what it is they provide for young people.
Great.
Yeah, love it. That was in Connecticut. So that's the Boys and Girls Club of Greenwich. So cheap plug. Shout out to y'all. Yeah.
They should be proud of you.
Yeah. So while there, so that's middle school through high school. Fast forward to my senior year, I'm not the best student in high school. Like I skated, I really did skate by. I wasn't a great student academically. Socially, I was. I'm sure I made my mom very proud. But yeah, academically just wasn't great. Hated school, so it's very ironic that I'm a teacher.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
You hated school because
I just didn't want. I was doing writing papers that I didn't care about or doing math that I just literally never gonna do in my life. Like I was that kid where it was just like, where's the value in this?
we have a lot of kids like that.
Yeah, and it's valid to have those feelings, but in short, you do these things to be more well-rounded. You go out into the world today, you have a conversation with someone, and you can tell where their education stops. And you don't want people to just pass judgment on you because you don't know X, Y, Z. When in reality, if you just would have paid attention in class a little more, you can contribute more and more.
Is that? I'm cutting the story because I got to ask this. Is that what you tell kids? I'm in your class, Mr. Will. I don't care about this. This has no relevance to my life. I'm not doing this.
I'll tell kids, dude, me too. Sometimes a kid will say, I don't want to do. I go, yeah, me neither, dude. You think I want to be here? So especially the end of the school year, those kids will be like, I don't complain about something. I said, dude, you don't think I want to go home? I promise you I want to go. I promise you I want to be home more than you right now. And like a part of that is me embellishing and joking with the kid. But it's also true. I think our kids need to know that we're not these tyrants in the front of the classroom, that we're people too. And that I've had the same feelings as you. Like I will tell a kid in my safety ed class, the driving one, I'll be like, listen, I wish I had a class like this in high school. I didn't. But if there's any class to pay attention to, it's this one, because more than likely you're going to be in a position where you're driving every day and this stuff is going to be important.
Yep.
In my PE class, this one, I believe, is your most important class because you can do whatever other subjects, you can get away with never doing them again in some capacity. You're going to have to move your body every day. You are going to have to figure out how to care for your physical well-being in some capacity. So pay attention here, and I will give you a framework that you can carry with you for literally the rest of your life.
So when I show up in your classroom and make those comments, thinking the way that you thought when you were younger, you just draw a through line for them to like, this is how it's relevant to your real life.
Yeah.
I'm not thrilled about this either, but this is how it makes sense. Yeah. We're doing it.
At least in the classes that I teach, I can do that. Be like, listen, if you hate math, I'm sorry, dude. You have to do it.
Yeah.
Sucks, but it is what it is. You want to get out of high school, like you have to. My class, the straight line is you have to do this, one, because you want to pass my class. Two, this directly impacts your life in this capacity. So I think a kid levels with that more, or rather, a kid who doesn't want to do that kind of stuff, they level with it more because they go, okay, at least I see the straight line as to why I'm doing this.
So you made it through high school, and then you went to college?
No, I did something called a post-grad year, and that's why I brought up the Boys and Girls Club. So I was in this mentorship program. I can't remember what the actual mentorship program was called.
Through Boys and Girls Club.
But it was through the Boys and Girls Club. Yeah, and I met this guy. His name was Michael Chambers, who I still communicate with now.
That's awesome.
Seldom, but I do communicate with him. Like,
connection.
invited him to my wedding and our baby shower for our first kid. And this was someone I met when I was 17.
Wow.
So it was a program for seniors looking to pursue college, and those mentors basically played middleman and like helped parents like take a kid on a college tour, or like interviewing skills and like work on a resume. Like Michael Chambers, he was or is a big wig. At the time, he was a big wig of some water company in the Fairfield County area. I don't know what he does now, but he was a professional and a good professional. So like to have someone like that be able to teach me, hey, this is what someone wants to hear, blah, blah, it was very helpful.
It's a huge leg up. What a cool program.
Very, very, yes. It was definitely an advantage that I had. So anyway, Michael saw that I wasn't the best student, and then
Just because he looked at your grades.
yeah, looking at my grades and seeing where my interests really were. Like he would come to my wrestling matches and stuff like that. Like he was the man, or is the man. Yeah,
good guy.
And he shared with me something called a post-grad program. I had no idea what that was. And the best way to explain it for someone who doesn't know what a post-grad program is it's 13th grade. It's not actually, but I've graduated high school. I'm not quite ready for college. And here's a gap in between the two for me to prepare myself for that next level. Mostly athletes do it. Anyone can do it, but mostly athletes do it and that's what I did, to get another year of recruitment, take your SATs again, retake some high school classes, and up your GPA. But you do it at a private school, a prep school. So you typically live there, and I did it at a school called Wyoming Seminary here in Pennsylvania. It's in Kingston, PA, which is a very, very good wrestling school.
You picked it because of the wrestling that it had?
Because of wrestling.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was relatively close as well. I did look at some schools in Connecticut and New York, and Michael Chambers, he took me to those places. So my mom took me to some, and then, if she couldn't, then
she's busy.
Yeah. And Michael Chambers was the guy. I'm telling you, he drove me up to several schools and visited schools with me.
It's cool for people to listen to that and hear and think about if they might be able to do that for somebody.
Dude, I'm telling you, like, I have nothing but good things to say about him, and then realizing that it was just him wanting to do that. He made $0 on this investment. It was just, hey, I know this person at the Boys and Girls Club. How do I mentor a kid? Okay, now I'm a mentor, and now I get to help Ryan.
Yep.
And now he's literally made an impact that has played a role in the trajectory of my life. So anyway, I landed at Wyoming Seminary. I did a postgraduate year there. Like I said, very good wrestling school. My year that we were there, we finished number 3 in the country, or number 2 in the country.
Wow.
Within high schools. Yeah.
That's the top of the top.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. So when you're post-grad, you're not a high school student, because I have a diploma. So I was only able to compete against other prep school kids. And then I was also able to compete in collegiate opens as well.
Oh, neat.
So fast forward to me wrestling in my first collegiate open at Franklin and Marshall, actually.
No way.
So yeah, it's wild how small everything gets when you look. So I'm a post-grad at SEM, and I wrestled at the Franklin and Marshall Open, and wrestling there got me looks from Clarion, and then I started getting recruited by Clarion, and then I went to go wrestle there my freshman year of college.
Awesome. Clarion's 4-year school.
It is, but I actually didn't stay. So the grad assistant coach there, Kerry Regner, he became the head wrestling coach at a small Christian school way down south, middle of nowhere, Arkansas, called Williams Baptist. At the time, it was college. Now it's university. Williams Baptist University now. And through a crazy recruitment process of him trying to convince me to come down to Arkansas and literal divine intervention, I decided to go down to Arkansas and wrestle there for 4 years. Yeah.
What do you mean divine intervention?
So I was actually athletically ineligible at Clarion because of my grades that I brought with me. So again, I was never really a great student. Even in my post-grad year, I didn't really do everything academically that I was supposed to do, or I didn't really work up to the potential that I should have. And if I could go back and beat up my younger self and knock some sense into myself, I absolutely would. I was just so content with skating by academically just because it wasn't something that I loved.
Is there anything that you could have said to yourself? I mean, I'm thinking about all our kids who are in that exact same boat. If I can skate by,
Yeah.
I'm a great athlete. If I can skate by, why would I do anything more?
Well, I realized I robbed myself of an opportunity where, like, it was hard because I didn't really see what that was until I realized I didn't have it. So I get to Clarion and I realize I'm not eligible because of my academics. And so my practices look different. I was wrestling with a smaller cohort. I had communication with the coaches, but really most of my communication was through the grad assistant coach, who was Kerry Regner. And he was basically my coach. I felt like my coach as opposed to the head coach because you were limited to what it is you could do with the actual rostered team. So it was tough. But anyway, I made this relationship with Coach Regner all throughout, and then we end up going home for winter break. Like, school year goes on, it's winter break, and we are struggling financially. To give the abbreviated version, struggling financially, and school is becoming expensive to pay for. And going back in the spring semester was feeling far-fetched. Yeah, and it was scary, dude. I'm like,
Yep.
like crying, thinking like, dude, I'm gonna drop out and like end up having to work, odd jobs and save money and so on because loans are crazy. And I remember going to church on a Sunday. And I had found out maybe like a week prior, like during winter break, that Regner wasn't coming back to Clarion. He was going down to Arkansas to start this new program.
Your guy.
At Williams, yeah. So the school, it was an NAIA school athletically, so not NCAA, NAIA. And I see him go down there. Like, I saw just the news on social media, right? All right, so fast forward, we're in the middle of break. I remember going to church on a Sunday. There was a guest speaker who came to the service, and they gave the service, and it was all about God's timing. Like, that was what the sermon was about. It was all about God's timing. And God's timing is this, and you have this plan, and it doesn't really matter, but God knows what's best, and things of that sentiment. So I'm listening, and everything feels regular. Mm-hmm. Normal Sunday, good sermon, good guest speaker, appreciate him coming. And he does an altar call and calls people down who want prayer. And in my mind, I'm like, we're struggling out here. I'm going to go down and get to what's an extra prayer?
Yep.
So
won't hurt.
I go down, and mind you, this is a guest. I think the guy was from like Massachusetts. Never seen him before in my life. Actually, he definitely was from Massachusetts. Definitely never seen him before in my life. Go down, and I remember standing there, and like he's praying for the people down the line, and he comes down to me, and he puts his hand on me, and he asked me what my name is, and I told him my name's Ryan, and that was it. And then he starts praying in my ear. Dude, I can literally cry. And he starts praying in my ear, saying like, God, like, this kid's gonna do great things. Use him in XYZ way. Like, scholar, dude, I'm telling you, this man who I've never met before said in my ear, scholarships are coming this kid's way, and you're gonna use him to do amazing things. Look at me.
That's worth it.
And I'm like bawling tears. I'm like, this guy is a total stranger. He has no idea that we are struggling so hard. Like in that part of my life, we were struggling so hard. Like I thought I was going to drop out of school.
Yeah.
And I swear I'm a tough guy. All right.
We can see it when you're tough.
So that happened. And I go and I tell my mom, I'm like, Mom, this guy just said this stuff to me.
Yep.
So now I'm crying with my mom.
Yep.
And then that was it. We go home. So that was Sunday. And then maybe later that night or the next day, I get a message from Regner on Facebook. And he's asking me what my phone number is. We didn't have each other's personal phone number. And I'm like, all right. I send him my number on Messenger. And he says, can I give you a call at whatever time? And I go, yeah. My phone starts ringing. I went into my mom's room and I showed her my phone. I was like, Mom, watch this. I've said that to her. I said, watch this. I went to my room. And he basically told me, like, abbreviated version, hey, I got this position and I want you to come down to Arkansas with me. And me being an idiot, I was very flattered, but I was also like, nah. Because in my mind, I just got this awesome prayer and it was this guy saying that I'm going to get scholarships and what have you. And I go, oh, like things will work out. I'm going to go back to Clarendon. Yeah. But I remember telling Regner, I was like, I'm flattered, coach, and congrats, but like no.
I'm staying.
Yeah, I'm staying. And things worked out, and I was able to go back to school for the spring semester. So in my mind, everything was cool. But Regner was persistent in like reaching out to me all the time, and I remember me and my girlfriend, we were hanging out, and Regner called me, and I was saying to her, this guy, I feel bad. Like this guy's trying to build a team. I'm leading him on. I'm just gonna tell him that I'm sorry. Like I'm not going to Arkansas. Like I'm happy here at Clarion. I'm happy here with you and my girlfriend. And I was like, I'm just gonna go tell him that I'm done. Like communicating with him. And so she was like, all right, go ahead. I left. In that phone call, I ended up committing to Clarion, and I came back. Well, he just painted a picture. That made sense, and I just I'm thinking about all the prior conversations that I had with him, and I'm thinking, how my faith ties into all of this, and I'm giving you the abbreviated version here, and it was just literally felt like God telling me, you are how are you not seeing that this is what I want you to go do? And it just, everything made sense in that moment. And I was like, okay, this is what God wants me to do. And so I committed to him over the phone, and I went back to my girlfriend and I was like, hey, she was like, how'd it go? And I was like, I think I'm going to Arkansas next year. And she was like, what? And
180.
Yeah, it was I totally threw a massive curveball at her. Fast forward to now, she's my wife, and I have our second kid, so we made it work. And, awesome. We stayed together all throughout, and it was great. But that's how I ended up down in Arkansas. So if we were to backtrack, graduated high school, went to SEM, the post grad year, met people who recruited me to go to Clarion. At Clarion, that semester happened, struggling, got back. Spring, I committed to go to Williams, and the following year I got to Williams. I changed my major, so not a lot of my credits transferred over. So I basically was starting from square one.
Okay.
Because I was going from sports management into education. So I actually got an undergraduate degree in health and PE, K through 12. Yeah.
Which you use now.
Which I use now. Yeah.
And you came to this area.
Yeah. So I stayed 4 years in Arkansas. Wrestled there, saw a lot of success there as an athlete. It was awesome. Saw a lot of success there as just a student who really, if I was going to be in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, I was going to make it count. So I really milked it for what it was worth.
You dialed in.
Yeah, it was great. I got 2 pretty prestigious awards there by my senior year. I really made it worthwhile. And I met a lot of awesome people who I still communicate with regularly today. So that happened. I ended up working there for a year in admissions. So I stayed there a 5th year in Arkansas. crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Not part of the original plan.
Dude, like a different world down there. It's crazy. I went from living in New York to then living in Connecticut to then living in East Side PA, then living to West Side PA, then living in Arkansas. It was like I've seen
traveled.
Yeah, very different parts of the country. Yeah, so that happened. I stayed there, worked in admissions, so not using my degree. And in that year working admissions, Regner had left Williams and ended up coaching at Millersville as the head coach there. So in my year working, he reached out to me and was like, hey, an assistant coaching position is opening up. Would you want to come up and apply for the assistant position? And I did. So I moved from Arkansas up here to Millersville area, actually York. My wife and I, we got married. And we've been here ever since. Now we live in Millersville. But yeah, been, like I said, I celebrated 6 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So what I want you to close on is talking to some of our students who I think might be in this position. They're in a place academically where they're getting by. They're fine. They believe they're on a path, and all of a sudden they get the big curveballs. The curveballs might be the loans that are no longer going to be available or going to be too hard to pay off. So financially, it could be family finances. But something is now making them question the whole path. So the path is starting to fracture. What do we say to that kid? Because that was you at one point.
Yeah.
Should they go, what if they don't have a faith community?
Yeah.
What do we say to that kid?
Yeah. I in my personal situation, like in my heart of hearts, I really do think God stepped in and really helped me out. Because I did. I like that, what I said before, like that happened, and I one of the reasons why I went down to Arkansas is I got a significant. I did get a significant scholarship.
Yep.
School was made very.
That was
affordable. True. Yeah, it was true. And then each year that I wrestled, I performed better than my previous self, and my scholarships got bigger. I was a 3-time national qualifier and a conference champ. So each year, my coach offered me more and more money. So like it really did work out that way. I would say for someone who's in that boat, like you can't be blind to what your road looks like right now. Like if you are in high school and you know money's tight, like it's not a surprise. You have to be proactive in what it is you want your life to look like. Mm-hmm. If you want to go to college, like you're not gonna, you know that now. Like if you're hearing this and you want to go to college, you know that right now. Like, hey, I want to go to college. I also know that money's tight. What am I doing right now to ensure that it's not as tight? Am I working a job? Am I aligning myself with an opportunity to earn some form of academic scholarship? Am I outsourcing for other scholars? It's crazy how much money is out there that people are literally trying to give away. Like I could tell you, I had a kid on our wrestling team a couple years ago who worked at Chipotle, and Chipotle has a awesome program for college students that he was getting. I think he was getting like $4,500 a semester. Nice. If he worked X amount of hours through the summer that he was able to apply. He would just go to his manager, fill out the application. Hey, I worked this many hours that you got paid for. All right. Now you're eligible for this Chipotle scholarship. There are so many jobs like that because of these companies. They want to do charitable work.
Yep.
You just got to go. I had a kid on the wrestling team who wrote, there's a website called Scholly. I think it's still called Scholly. And there are all these different types of prompts for various essays where you can get scholarships. One of them, this one's annual. I can't remember what it's called, but it's on there. You'll find it if you go on the website. How would you survive a zombie apocalypse? 500-word essay. That's like $1,000 scholarship.
I would do that.
Do that. That would just be fun, just to pass time.
Yep.
And then you submit it. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is you wrote a silly thing about how you would survive a zombie apocalypse. Best thing that can happen, you wrote a silly thing, submitted it, and got $1,000 toward your scholarship. So cool. So it's just like a matter of being proactive. You can't be ignorant to what your path looks like. If you feel like, work, money is the thing, like what are you doing to to stand in the way of that. If you feel like athletics, like if I work a little harder in this, maybe I can afford myself a scholarship and get a look this way. I don't know. It's tough, but it just takes being proactive. I think, in short, or just to say it again, you can't be ignorant to what your path looks like at this present moment. So what are you going to do to make sure that you are prepared to hit those peaks and valleys on the way to getting to whatever it is you want to get to?
And that's the perfect message that I want from everything we've learned about you. That can be boiled down to, let's get ahead of some of this stuff if we can, is really powerful for our students. So we got more to unpack. I hope that everyone listening today knows that Ryan, someone was going to come back. We got to dig into kind of the organizational perspective that you have, in addition to some of the leadership stuff and some of the faith stuff. But Ryan, thanks for a great intro to the team, to everyone listening today. Appreciate your time.
No, this was fun. I hope that this all translates well with someone out there.
Yeah.
And I'll be excited to come back in the future. For sure.
We'll do it. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Appreciate you.